Good afternoon, everyone, on this gloomy Monday afternoon. And today we'll talk about power, but power from the bioarchaeological perspective. And our presenter is Dr. Robert Mahler from the Polish Center of Mediterranean Archaeology. As usual, the presentation should be no more than 1 hour, and then we'll have a half an hour discussion. So Robert, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me. I hope to share with you my thoughts, my experience, some studies, some examples on bioarchaeological perspective on power and people of power. And this is not easy because it's somehow the subject is so vast that it encompasses all the bioarchaeology by itself, and therefore I had to do some selection. And please, if you have any questions, please do ask. And even during the presentation, I would very well welcome you asking about anything you do not understand or you wish to discuss in the middle of something. So please do interrupt me. And because this is such a vast subject that we can follow different paths. But I hope I might offer my tour on bioarchaeology of power will be interesting. First of all, there is a certain amount of misunderstanding between archaeologists, as they are, and bioarchaeologists, which are not very uniform group. And this is the gap between archaeology and bioarchaeology, in my opinion, is understandable, but it should not be. It should be breached because archaeology and bioarchaeology, and not because this is there are similar names, but and the subject is similar, but if archaeologists understand what we do, and if bioarchaeologists understand the cultural context and the archaeology and intricacies of work at the site of excavations, it would benefit us all, and I suppose we can reach high quality conclusions because of this, and we should work together, and we do the same exactly, especially when we investigate burials. This we can call this approach biocultural approach, but then this is just name, and we can choose another one, but there is a history behind it. And bioarchaeology is as it is understood now, it is a study of human archaeological remains. So there is no a word about the context, and it is mainly concerned. It's focused on biology of past populations, not on the context. But as I understood it in my early work, I understood it, and I try to do it now also. I understand it's bioarchaeology more widely as something which is as a, I don't know, as a ceramic study, some ceramology, and this is a part of archaeology, and it should be treated, in my opinion, as this. In bioarchaeology, you can study paleopathology, evolutionary medicine, and so on and so on. But all of this is concentrated on biology, but has very meaningful, can reach very meaningful conclusions in a wider study of the past societies, of history of their evolution, of the mechanisms that were ruling these groups. And here the theme power shows us not the whole society, but the separate group of the society, of the society, which is a whole. So when we study bioarchaeology, we cannot study, in fact, just people of power. We have to know them in relation to others. So there are two, in my opinion, there are two fields of study that are bridging this rift between archaeology and bioarchaeology, and these are archaeology of death, which is the archaeology studying human burial customs, burial grounds, and in the small scale and very wide one, and use the methodologies from different fields of humanities, and the social bioarchaeology, which is more focused on bio component, but still it reaches out to the it is reaching out to the social studies. But you should not confuse social bioarchaeology with sociobiology, which is more focused on evolutionary aspects of human behavior. So, in my opinion, not what we are most interested in. And why to bridge this gap? I've already said that this is quite important for us to get the new quality results, but it is also because you cannot discern biological from cultural if we talk about the influence on the phenotype. What we study as bioarchaeologists, we study phenotype. So something which is an outcome of many different interrelated influences. First of all, we have a genetic program. As you can see, it is something that is written and should be pursued. But there is a huge but. The phenotype manifestation of what we have written in genes is very different depending on the environmental factors. And by environment, I mean all factors, exactly all. So not only natural environment, which is different depending on the region of the world, not only other humans, but also the environment, natural environment, which is changed by humanity. It is Anthropocene we are living in, and this influence on our phenotype starts from the conception, and even before, as I will show you, this goes far beyond our course of life. This is the program we have inside is only a potential. This is the phenotype is a manifestation, and we are working hard all our lives, and our relatives work on this, on our form, which we as bioarchaeologists study. And this influence goes not only, it is not only in our mother's womb, it's not only microbes that are influencing us, everything is influencing us, and we are people, we are beings making, which invade, maybe we have a culture, we have a, the culture is our way we cope with difficulties, we adjust to external factors, and it influences us to the extent we cannot discern from natural environment and from other influences. For example, I don't know, the activity of the sun and so on, so on. To give you an example, we, as you probably would agree, we are what we eat, we are what we intake, what's our intake, and so on. And the 70-kilogram male, average male, is composed of 24 kilograms of extracellular mass, 10 kilograms of cells which are not muscle, and erythrocytes and fat cells. Then comes muscle cells, which is 20 kilograms, and then fat, 14, not for all, of course, but for an average male, and erythrocytes, which are only 3 kilograms, which is red blood cells. And but there is a microbiome inside. We have a lot of bacteria in our organisms, which we do not know exactly how they influence our well-being, everything what we are exactly in terms of our of digesting food and building our body, of reaction to pathogens, and so on and so on. This is only 0.2 kilogram. This is a little, but in raw numbers, it is somewhat different. If you take into account the numbers of cells inside our bodies, it is more, there is more bacteria in us inside than actual human cells. So we are we a corporate beings? Probably not, but we have also the environment inside, which is not our body. So the bacteria to human cells ratio count, as it is for now, ranges between 1.3 and 2.3. And 1.3 is for a male, and 2.3 is for an infant. And for women, it's around 2.2. And so in case of women, for example, it is 2 times more, at least 2 times more bacteria cells inside than actual human body cells. So this is the influence we are coping with. What's the link between phenotype and power? How can we see this link? What we can observe as bioarchaeologists in a bioarchaeological material, the differences that could influence our body are mostly dependent on food. So first of all, better food, no starvation, no famine will not affect, in most cases, will not affect considerably the people of power as a group. The abundance of food. So sometimes people of power will suffer from excessive intake of food, and maybe some different kinds of food which could be in big quantities, could be not so beneficial for our well-being. And wide selection of it, and which is also connected with the quality, but it's expensive to have a wide selection of food. So there are also another factors: no hard labor in most cases, better medical care. But medical, I have better care maybe would be better here, not medical, because medical is somewhat contemporary, and previously it was in ancient times sometimes it was medical, but in most cases it was just care, and care means expenditure of resources. So if people were taking care of their relatives which were not disabled or not able to do something for to take care of themselves for a period of time, it is something we can see in the material sometimes. And better probability of successful reproduction. This is something we can see in a group as a whole sometimes also, but there is a great but. These all reservations, these all observations are valid only in a specific cultural context. So I'd like you to take a moment to think about what would be the best indicator of wealth if you are looking at people of power today, but you have only their bodies. What would be this? For me, it would be teeth. Why the Mona Lisa is not smiling, we really don't know. But if it was because of teeth, we now have prosthetics. But we have prosthetics of different quality. People with missing teeth, without prosthetics, are seen as poor in nowadays. Previously, I don't know, a century ago, it was common to see on the street people with no teeth, with teeth missing. This was common because the prosthetics was not so the availability of this was not very great. And when you look at teeth, and when you look at the kind of prosthetics, you can tell something about the power, about the wealth, which is one of the most prominent indicators of power. So this For example, this implant would be more expensive than this partial denture, for example, and it's more expensive than this bridge. So it is something that you have to find if you study bioarchaeology and power through bioarchaeology. You have to find your way through it, and the context you are working in is very, very important. It's crucial. Here at the bottom right of the picture, you have two examples of ancient bridges made of actual teeth combined together with a gold band. At top one is from Etruria, and the bottom is from Rome. And when we study phenotype today, it's not easy. And but when we study the phenotype in the past, it is a lot more difficult, because we have the evidence is scarce. We have skeletons, which as mostly skeletons to investigate, which are not very well preserved. As you can see here, it is from El Zuma in Sudan, tumulus number 14, and there is a state of the preservation of this particular person is not very good, and it was something that was the main factor behind the scarcity of data that could be acquired. As you can see here, it's even the skull form had to be reconstructed from small pieces. I presented because I did it myself, so I can tell you about it a little bit more from the first-hand experience. And what we can do there is establish how many of them there were in tumulus number 14. It is one, sex female, probably female, age 20 to 30, between 20 and 30, and stature, reconstructed stature, 168 centimeters. This stature was reconstructed by using these measurements. Only the radius right was preserved intact. The rest was more or less damaged. We can also, by studying these skeletons, we can also note some pathological conditions, but this is not an ideal situation for us, because most of the methodologies developed for the bioarchaeology is based on whole, complete skeletons, and not eroded and not disturbed. And so everything can be, everything is more evident if you study such skeletons, such complete skeletons. And in the field, it is very different. One thing you can do when you do such bioarchaeological study is to identify a particular individual. Either you can characterize this person, or you can check if this is the person you are looking for. So if you are looking for this specific person, in this case, Nicolaus Copernicus, you start with three main characteristics: age, depth, sex, stature. Then you can go for facial reconstruction, which is quite scientific pursuit, because it involves a lot of artistic imagination to complete it, to be visually attractive. And you can also identify some pathological lesions. And if you know the history of the person, you can point to this particular injury that happened during his or her life. You can also do the ADNA study and start stable isotopes, and you can also do C14 to get the dating. But in this case, it was very controversial one, and it is the quite big discussion arose that if this is in fact the person they were looking for, and so on, and all these features, all these analyses were not conclusive in the light of some opinions, and but it was the ADNA that stopped the discussion, which the skeleton was sampled for DNA, and then it was compared with a DNA from a blood spot on the codex, which was sampled in Sweden. So we had a direct connection with the person we are looking for, and ADNA sample had proved the link. But sometimes it is possible also to investigate relatives if we have DNA, and descendants, and so on and so on. So the possibilities are many, and it depends. There is no one way to do it. There are many ways, and it depends on the context. So this was individual identification, which is, as you can see, when you put people of power in the biological perspective, you can either do this individual identification, which is sometimes preferred because it is it can be disseminated via media, and it is interesting for people. But for me, the more interesting is investigating groups. If you investigate individuals, you work with material. If you investigate groups, first you have to work on individuals. But the difference is about reasoning. If you investigate groups, population, your reasoning can be more general. Case studies are somewhat singular and are burdened with high uncertainty concerning many different determinations. Most prominent of this is sex of the individual, because it is the methodology is based on populations and on average characteristic, not on particular one. You cannot, and there is no label there. You cannot have a single determinant of sex. So statistically, when you investigate population, there is a low uncertainty according to proportions, for example, of sexes in this group. But if you investigate particular person, particular individual, the probability of error is quite high. And as I said, the individual story is quite compelling, but the description of society may be, in my opinion, a lot more beneficial in the end. As announced in the abstract of this lecture, the skeletal remains are somewhat like a life course diary, registering different features, different characteristics of this life. First of all, we can, as you know, establish sex, age of death, stature, morphology, pathological conditions, which is injuries, so accidents, growth disruption, which can last for should last for a certain period of time for us to be able to see it, and long-lasting stress. We can do also ADNA and stable isotopes. We do it also when we investigate groups. We combine this evidence to do the paleodemography, archaeology of death, biodistance, paleoepidemiology, evolutionary medicine, nutrition, migration, biodistance, nutrition, and so on and so on. And why paleodemography and not demography? Because what we study, in fact, is not the living society, it's not a living group of people, but a skeletal population. This is very different. First of all, we study a group which is with the age structure very different, most probably, from the living group. To give you an example of this is, for example, in a society in a group of people in the population, in which, for example, all the people die at 50, okay, 55, and so on, at 50. And in a archaeological record, we have only individuals of 50. But in a living society, in a living population, which is in fact a subject of demographical studies, there are also children and maybe young adults and so on and so on. They die, and then they become our subjects. So, of course, our ultimate goal is to reach the information about the living population and how their life was. But it is not the essence of demography, and paleodemography is quite different. The subject is similar, but not the same. And the same concerns paleoepidemiology. It is also very different because we have a data on right now. Maybe it will change in time, but right now we have a data on the of pathological conditions which are observable on bones. Hence, we can observe only long-lasting stress or growth disruptions which could be shown on bones or teeth, So the person who experienced this growth disruption lived to show us these changes. There is no chance of seeing any acute conditions that caused, for example, death. It's not possible. We very rarely it is possible to reach a conclusion according to the cause of death. So it is not as straightforward, but still worth, in my opinion, very worth pursuing. And main problems as I've already said is in individuals it is uncertain determinations, but in groups it is, in my opinion, it is mostly representativeness of the samples for the population we are studying, because as you see it from a wider perspective, what we study is only a small fraction of the societies, of the populations we study. It is not representative for the whole population. Maybe it is, maybe it is not. Of course, we can cope with this using the methodology of archaeology of death, and we can compensate for this somehow, depending on the context, of course, the particular research. But still, the question is, do we have a representative samples? Is it random? And the method of choice in doing in researching groups is statistics. When we use statistics, we need random samples, representative samples. So we have to know our sample. We have to know if the sample is coming from the which population is it representative for. And there is also something which we call osteological paradox, which was the problem which was raised in 1990s, which we try to compensate for, but for now is everybody should keep it in mind that the pathological lesions we observed, even if we do it statistically, to show us some patterns. And if we compare, for example, the population with more lesions and with the population with in which the lesion, for example, of a systemic stress is not so numerous, we can anticipate that this we have two avenues to pursue. One is this population with less pathological conditions were more healthy, or the population with more pathological changes were living better lives because they were able to cope with the pathogens for so long that have been able to develop the changes we are able to observe right now. So this is something we should keep in mind all the time when we do bioarchaeology. And there is also something that is very important for all our investigations. That is developmental origins of health and disease, and sometimes also the concept is connected with fetal programming and early life programming. And it is, in general, it is something that says that when we are very young, in a womb of our mother, just after birth. These are the crucial parts, time in our life when we program ourselves for the future. So if we experience during early life, if we experience stress, which will last for some time, then it is highly probable that during later life we will have problems, even if our conditions improved, if our living conditions improved. If, for example, during pregnancy, our mom had some deficiencies, experienced deficiencies, period of hunger, of famine, and it repeats, for example, just after our birth, then it is, if the conditions changes into better, it is highly probable, maybe not highly, but the probability of developing type 2 diabetes later in life is higher than in individuals which did not experience periods of deprivation, of stress, such periods. So it is quite important to see the whole picture, and such traumatic episodes as famine can influence, for example, our stature for generations. So it is somehow inherited by our children. Here you can see the different indicators of unspecific stress, and here is porotic hyperostosis and cerebral orbitalia, enamel hypoplasia, and the thoracic vertebra canal thinning, and the bone, not bone overgrowth, but bone reaction, periosteal reaction, mostly observed on tibia, and here is also the Harris lines, which are interpreted as, sometimes, but it depends on the source, sometimes are interpreted as growth arrests lines. And here I'd like to give you some examples of very simple comparisons, and you will see here also some difficulties concerning population studies. Here, there is an example from El Zuma, the cemetery of high-ranking elites of the Makurian, early Makurian society. There, great tumuli of three types. Type 1, the most monumental one, the second, of course, somewhat in the middle, and the third, the smallest tumuli. And here you can see the numbers are not very high. For example, the type 1 we had only two sex determinations, three, one female, two male. Type 2, 5 female, 3 male, and type 3, 2 female and 7 male. These differences were between the type 2 and type 3 were found statistically significant. So you can tell something using statistics, but the numbers are so low that most of the observations, like type 2 having more women than men, should be treated as purely coincidental. And as you can see here, also there is a difference between type 1, type 2, and type 3 according to stature, for example. The body height for women was was higher in type 2 than in type 3. Was maybe similar to this to this type 1, but we cannot say. And was different from with type 2, with between type 2 and type 3, and as expected, it is higher than in type 3, but it is not statistically significant. So we cannot say for sure that it is not a coincidence. But it is expected that people of higher status would be higher. And skeletal remains from Komeldika in medieval Alexandria, purely just the proportion of sexes gives us something new, something interesting about the relations of power also between men and women. Here, in the case of the lower necropolis, there is a 10 percentage points gap between women and men in the case of grave box burials. So in this difference, which is observed here, 10 percentage points, which is observed in the case of the lower necropolis between inhumations between male and female, can be explained by the differences in the type of grave they were buried in. It can be discussed further, but if you have any questions, just ask. I can go into details. And looking at the sex and combining the sex and age at death in Alexandria gives us also interesting insight between that there was a change between lower necropolis and upper necropolis, and it is statistically significant, the change between the age at death of women, as you can see here in the upper row. For the lower necropolis, which is 9th, 10th century, there were less women dying at younger age, as young adults. So in the case, of the upper necropolis, which is dated to the Fatimid period, more or less 11th, 12th century. So there was a shift between lower and upper necropolis times. In the situation of women at the age young women. The overall, most probably, the overall situation have improved because there is a bigger share of women living to advanced age, but there is also, and at the same time, there is an increase in women dying young. So something happened between these 2 centuries, so 2 periods, that on the one hand, it has the living conditions for women in reproductive age has worsened, but improved for women living to mature age, to maturity. And then the stature, which is single one most important indicator of well-being of population, because this is a handy measure combining all the factors that influence our life during growth period, during first 24 years of our lives. Depends on the individual, of course. And it is also sexually dimorphic, and so women reach lower heights than men. So we can tell something about this difference, because we, men and women, male and females, we are different in our reaction to stress. Male are more fragile and we are more, our reaction to stress is more pronounced. Women are more stable in the face of external stress. So we can compare the difference, the gap between heights of male and females to tell something about the society. And this is also a very good, maybe not good, very often used measure of well-being of current populations of nowadays. So it is, it would be important to have a good reconstruction technique, stature reconstruction technique, to be able to compare past populations with contemporary. And here is something, the procedure I have developed for choosing the best stature reconstruction method for different bones using regression. So what about the future? I really don't know, of course, but I hope there will be better data availability, both measurements and isotopic stable isotope data and DNA data, and data which will be collected in more will be more compatible, comparable between different sets. It is still very, very important topic in our bioarchaeological research, to adjust to standards, and there will be more physical and chemical analysis. I hope that age at death determination will reach new precision, and we will be able to tell it the age at death very precisely. I hope so, and it would boost our biodemographical studies, which are not which are not compatible, not comparable as for now with demography. Biodistance, migrations, phenotype, DNA decoding, and so on and so on. Isotopes, of course, and trace elements, specific diagnosis concerning pathological conditions using aDNA and using different analyses involving these elements I've shown you on the left. And as you can see, the human body is composed of oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and other elements. So what we are able to investigate using just skeletons and teeth is only a fraction of what should be possible. And specific diagnosis, if will be reached, will boost our understanding of the development of pathological of pathogens. We can more understand it better in not only here and now, but also in the past, how it developed and the evolutionary aspects of it. And for example, hormones which are now investigated, for example, cortisol, hormone of stress, which can be extracted from teeth. And for now, it is just something of a curiosity, but in the future, maybe if we reach some, if we get some norms, normal levels of cortisol and how to assess it properly, and maybe it will be something of that give us additional tool for looking into the minds of people in the past. And of course, the documentation in 3D, which is if it gets, it is getting better and easier to do, and if it gets more automatic, maybe it could be possible to study bones, not only in the field, but also to have a look at them later in Poland when we come back from the field. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Robert, for this presentation that makes you think about yourself in a very different way. And now I would like to open the discussion. So yes, Professor Kamil Kłoroszkiewicz.
Thank you, and thank you, Robert, for your lecture. When listening to it, I couldn't help but reminded myself a very recent discussion on what exactly is the archaeooriental methodology, where we reached a conclusion that it's basically knowing right people. And everything you said convinces me that you are the right guy when dealing with dead people.
So I failed,
and
because I wanted to show you that this is that there is no one proper way to do it, and that there are that we should do it together. You know?
Yes, definitely, and this is what is particularly important and valuable in what you said. But on a more serious note, I wonder what would be the representative number of individuals for society. I mean, when you conduct a research on a cemetery, do you think that the remains of humans you examine can be seen as representative, as as representative for their society?
Oh, okay. This is a very tough question and a very fundamental one.
It was not my intention.
This is, you cannot tell the number. You cannot tell that something is right or wrong. You can try to, you have two options. Either you have a population you investigate, and you would like to construct a theoretical framework for this. And then you think that you have, for example, you investigate people of, I don't know, of using 5 different languages, and you do the sampling. So to be able to assess for example, how many are speaking Spanish, French, German, Polish, I don't know, Russian, and you have to pick some of them from the group. And you have 5 different languages. Okay, but if they are evenly distributed, it is okay. If in the group there is exactly 1/5 of the persons speaking each language, okay. But if you have, for example, 50% of Germans, 10% of French, and so on and so on, you have to have more people to get representative sample. So you have to anticipate something. You have to know your population before you sample it. We have the other way around. We sample the population, so we dig the cemetery, for example. It is some kind of sampling, and then we try to get to know our population. And this is also, in my opinion, valid, because we have, beside these bioarchaeological remains we are studying, we have also graves. We have the layout of the whole cemetery. We can discern some groups within the cemetery. We can tell something about the culture. We can tell if it was egalitarian, of maybe there were elites that were buried in special part of the cemetery, or this cemetery was intended for people of power. So we can tell something about the population we are studying, and then we can assess the representativeness of this sample for this population. I know that this sounds strange, but it is like this. For example, for medieval Alexandria, I have a vast cemetery, but it was destroyed in parts and so on. And if I have big numbers, and if I have these big numbers of skeletons, is 3,000. For me, this is quite a huge amount. But if you ask someone doing anthropological research on living populations, it's virtually nothing, and I have this 3,000 for a period of 4 centuries. So this is virtually nothing. But in comparison to other populations, it is quite a big sample, and we can anticipate that it will be more or less representative for the period. If you study, for example, the Upper Necropolis, which is dated from the 11th to 12th century, for this period, they could be representative. But whether more of them were coming from the 11th century or 12th century, I cannot tell. And there were significant differences in living conditions between these 2 centuries in Alexandria. There were political changes we know of that has changed everything there. And you know, this is you have to know your limitations, or maybe this is the best what we can do.
Well, I see, but as an optimist to the core, I have to ask another question. I wonder to what extent the results are valid. I mean, to what extent the picture we get can be seen as telling us something valid about the society.
I think we can be quite sure it is something, it tells us something, because you know, if you employ statistics, you are dealing with probability, and if the probability is high, you get pretty definite, pretty unambiguous results. But you cannot tell it is true. You can tell that most probably it is true. And it is always like this, also with archaeology, and also if you research today, and if you do research today, this is the same. If you ask people to tell you their I don't know, maybe not sex, but sexual identity, they will lie. So, and not only because they are afraid of coming out, but maybe they will see it as some kind of joke, of some kind of I don't know, challenge. They would like to be, I don't know, fun. Maybe it will be something. You know, the reasons are plenty.
Yes, to be clear, to be completely clear, it's not my intention to undermine the reasonability of doing that kind of research. It's something that troubles me, especially when thinking of well, okay.
Okay, I understand.
When thinking of the Old Kingdom Egypt.
Okay, you have to decide for yourself.
Cemeteries.
You have to decide for yourself. That's why I told you about these uncertainties and different factors and so on and so on. In my opinion, this is the credibility of this is the same or very similar to the credibility of serological data and any other data, the architecture or something. This is the same. This is very, very much the same. And here the credibility of this is sometimes higher because you use statistics. So you try to do it a little bit more researcher independent, you know. Yeah, so you try to be more scientific in this. Sometimes it is possible, sometimes not, because not always statistics works. As I said, it is just a probability, and you have to decide for yourself. You have to decide which is probable. So this, for me, it is very important to do a holistic study. I showed you the bioarchaeology as it is seen by people doing this also from the background of medical background and biological background. But in my opinion, the most important thing is to understand your material, and you will do it only if you work hand in hand with your colleagues studying, I don't know, languages, studying site from the point of view of architecture, of the society as a whole. You have to understand it. So this discrepancy between anthropologists studying bones, and the rest is terrible, in my opinion, because the bioarchaeologist studies bones in various parts of the world. So, and hence, they do not pay attention to the society they study, to the people behind it. So,
which leads us to the question of validity of archaeology as such.
yes, of course, it is always the question, the same question, and it is. I hope that it improves our investigation to ask such questions, and it is okay. I think it's wonderful that we can ask these questions and still do what we are doing. So, and I know that if I say that it was probably male or probably female, people look at me with a certain doubt written on their faces, and because they need definite answers, and I cannot give them any.
A goat or a sheep? Again, to be completely clear, I admire what you do, and I value it highly. But well, just it's like just like that. As an optimist, I have different questions and doubts, and somehow it escaped me aloud. So, but thank you very much, and I much appreciate both your job and the value of it for archaeooriental studies.
I hope it will be it will benefit we will benefit from it, and you know, for me it was very important to show what we do exactly and what we can do, and how we together can think about the material we studied. So,
and for that I thank you very much.
yeah. Thank you.
Okay, since we thanked each other, I think the next one to pose questions is Professor Joanna Jurewicz.
Yes, I agree with Kamil. with I appreciate your lecture very much, and I find it extremely interesting, and also for me it is important that that this possibility of joint research, which unites archaeo-oriental studies and cognitive studies too. So we were talking about that I liked your sentence when I liked your when you said the higher people are higher. Yes, that it shows how much as it is shown by neuroscience, how much embodied is our thinking. So we also, when we are somehow used to think, we adapt to think that a higher person has power, yes, and it also can be seen in gender studies here, that men are usually higher than women, and not high men sometimes have many troubles with themselves, and can be dangerous for many for history, like Napoleon or Lenin or Mr. Kaczynski, because somehow they somehow fight. It seems, of course, it's just a guessing, but this, they are also somehow involved in this thinking that because they are not high enough, they should show their power in a different way. But I have a question. I read sometimes ago in Wyborcza, I think there was oh, maybe somewhere else, somewhere on it. There was a study on I think Polish or European aristocracy, and there was the author claimed that those people were very often not very well developed because they were closed in their castles and everywhere. They didn't have much possibility to run around and so on. I'm not sure, because I don't remember who wrote that and who were those researchers, but would you think that that this is also possible, that they were smaller, handicapped, and
I really don't think so.
You don't think
this
so?
is this is this is a question about the sample.
I see.
You have to know the sample to tell something about it. And in my opinion, there should be no such thing as shorter stature, for example, in the case of people well established in their lives. So they were, of course, they were most probably shorter than we are. Because
but generally people
a lot
shorter.
of many generations to develop a higher stature. It is it's not inherited genetically, but it is inherited in epigenetically. So beside genes, so it is it changes with generations, many generations, and but still, if you are fed well and if the intake of nutrition is constant and you have no deprivation episodes, for example, famine or something like this, you will be higher than your colleagues in average, of course. Not every person, but in average, you will be higher than your colleagues which experience famine.
Yes. Oh, sorry. I just had to throw away the phone.
And it concerns also your family, because if your parents or grandparents has experienced famine, it is probably that you will experience some growth arrests connected with this episode. You are somehow inherit this. It is called thrifty phenotype. So the phenotype is anticipate. We are as a humans, as human beings, we anticipate shortages in food in our life, and we form our body accordingly. This is why we call it programming.
Yes, so this but yes, thank you very much. So but generally I am extremely interested in how much these ideas, the results of your research about bodies of people will agree with our thinking about social relationships and hierarchies, because it seems to be, for the moment, it seems to be I mean to agree, yes, that we think that people and more is better, better is more, and so on. And sometimes also people, of course, I think that it cannot be checked. Well, I don't know if it can be checked with your methodology, but also people in some cultures, fat people are very much highly valued. And it also agrees with with thinking, and maybe is the reason of thinking that one of the reasons of thinking that better is more, exactly, physically more. Yes.
Yeah. Right now we do not have food shortages in our geographical region, but in the past it was quite common to have famine before the new harvest began, and it was common. It depended. So if you were well fed, you were well situated. You're
Exactly.
within the society. So this connection was very obvious. Right now, it's not so. But
yes, no, because we have problems with eating the various. It's also very interesting, but
and
for another study.
That's why the context is particular context is very important when you research for the highest stratum of the, I don't know, Polish society in the medieval ages. You have to compare them not with Germans, better to compare them with their counterparts living, I don't know, in a country or their subjects, for example. So this is very important to compare, to have the whole picture. The best would be of the whole society.
Of course, yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And again, Professor Kuraszkiewicz.
I'm sorry, I don't know how to raise a hand, this yellow hand. It was somewhere, but it disappeared somehow. Never mind. But during your exchange, it occurred to me that it's exactly what we can observe in Old Kingdom iconography, where the persons of high status, they were depicted. And they were depicted at the same time, I mean, in the same place, in the same surrounding, which is in their tombs, on one hand as fit individuals, but on the other hand as fat individuals. For example, you can meet the tomb owner at the entrance as a fat guy, who is evidently wealthy enough to eat,
to be obese.
to be obese, and inside the tomb, the same guy is depicted as fit and young. Well, you can't recognize the age from the reliefs or paintings. Not always, usually not. But the obesity is evident, and it comes with such very different representations. So it has to be, it is assumed to be a reflection of this image of a wealthy person, who a person who can afford a surplus of food. That's it. Just a thought.
So at the same time, so what you are saying, in the same place, the same person could be depicted as fat and as thin. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, great. Interesting.
I wonder, how high enough on the ladder you have to be in order to leave these kind of constraints, because kings were usually not really depicted like this. And I'm just like, for them, probably it was too evident that they were like powerful and wealthy and stuff like that in order.
Yes, but on the other hand, kings were the category of themselves. So
yeah, sure, absolutely.
Yeah, not only, and it is also the kind of I don't know, the fashion. It becomes some manners of some manners of inhumations or something become fashionable in sometimes, and it comes sometimes from the highest stratum of the society to the lowest, and the other way around also sometimes. And for example, if you have a rich tomb markers of highest stratum, then the lower ranks also build very exquisite tombs, and then the higher stratum tries to do it as simple as possible. For example, and we have some. I cannot point to the exact time and place, but we have examples of this minimum. It starts from showing off. Then when the commoners also adopt this wealthy behavior, the wealthiest become very they change their mind, and they do it the other way around. So yeah.
Okay, Jasia?
Just a short comment, because this is this connection between wealth and power. It is very interesting that, because I'm reading now this book, The Dawn of Everything by Graeber and Wengroff, to Davids, and they somehow pointed out that this connection between more wealth, more power, and was not always accepted by humanity, that there were different attitudes toward that, but also the idea that the more wealth, the more power is also connected with this basic thinking that better is more, in that case, power.
Yeah, it depends, but if the materials, if the food, for example, is scarce, and this is crucial for your survival, the more power, the more food. So this is the connection is quite obvious, because this is our survival. Right now, it is not so. So it is changed. It has changed.
On the other hand, what Jasia says seems to imply that the power is a result of wealth, which can be, of course. But on the other hand, wealth is also a result of power, or can be the result of power. So it's a circle.
Vicious circle.
And
yeah, but we can, of course, but we can define wealth differently in different contexts. So that's why we should investigate what is the most desirable thing in society we investigate, and maybe it changes when the social stratum changes. So if we go to through the ladder, the people, what the people value changes.
Yes, that's exactly in at least ideally in Indian society. That, for example, for those who are vaishyas, so merchants and something, and peasants, money and wealth, and a lot of cattle and so on is important. For the warriors, a lot of wealth is important. Wealth, gold is mostly valued. And for the Brahmins, who are priests, their spiritual wealth is important, theoretically, of course. So they have to be much developed spiritually. So this you're right. Yes.
Okay, are there any other questions? So I guess we need to finish since it's 4:30. So thank you very much all for attending. Thank you, Robert, for sharing your thoughts with us. And we'll see each other on the, as far as I remember it well, on the 9th of February, when 6th of February, when Hania Rubinkowska will talk about Ethiopia. Kamil Kuraszkiewicz.
Just to remind the ones for whom it's important, and it is, we are going to prepare a report on our activities. So please think of what you have done so far, and I suppose I might haven't sent you the email concerning this, but I will do it in a moment. So please send me your deeds.
Camille, can we put in this article that we are already writing for the book? Or, I mean, is it going to be somehow part of it or not yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
It has to be something which is already done.
published. Yeah.
Okay.
And just to remind you, what we report here as a part of archaeooriental studies is by no means excluded from other reports, be it BST or anything. So that's it.
Okay, so thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you very
It was a
much.
pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.